We've been doing some scanning here, and I've got a number of results from the site that we've been looking at. I want to walk through some of these. We will take a look at how you would go about actually taking a look at these results and the different ways that you may be able to use to see what's going on. Now, as you're going through these, you may want to follow up manually, and that may require using something like Netcat or Telnet to get into the server and issuing connections there. It may require going to the browser and actually issuing the specific items through the form pages. It may require different ways of actually following up here. What we're really going to be talking about is how you can go about seeing what actually happened once you're in Burp Suite. So here we're in Burp Suite, and I've got this cross-site scripting reflected issue, and right here you can see there's just the advisory. What I need to do is click on one of the specific issues, and that gives me two additional tabs here. I've got a request tab and a response tab. Let's take a look at the request tab. This is actually the request. It's just the raw request with all of the HTTP headers exactly as they were sent to the server. We can see it broken out with the different parameters. Here are the headers that are broken out by field, and here's the hexadecimal if you're interested in taking a look at it in that way. The response we actually get a little bit different. Again, here's the raw. If you want to just look at the response here, you can see the HTTP headers. We've got an HTTP 1.1 200 OK, so we've got a request that succeeded. And here we've got the headers, and again, the hexadecimal. Here's the HTML if you want to read the HTML. But here's what's really useful. We can see a render here, and this is what it would actually look like inside the page. Now, I don't see much of anything here that stands out to me, although I can see where Burp Suite may have flagged the fact that it actually put in the brackets and some of the text that was actually there. So here we actually got the alert script back, and the render here didn't actually generate the alert box, but that may just be because Burp Suite doesn't do that or is incapable of doing that. So here's something that you may actually want to follow up on and figure out what was actually sent. So this is where we go back to the request, and here's where I could put in this data here. So I could copy this out, and then I could go back to my browser and I could actually go to this page, and let's actually take a look at that right now. I'm at the page now that actually generated the problem, and so let's paste this in here and see what we get back. And sure enough, we got an alert box back now where we didn't through Burp Suite. So here's actually an example where you want to follow this up with a browser because it's not necessarily clear whether this generated the alert box or not. So this is pretty clear, actually. The fact that it showed the script here suggests pretty strongly that something did happen. Although, again, it's where you want to go back to the browser and see what really happened, because even though you can render it, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to see what really happened inside of Burp Suite. We've got some other issues we could take a look at. Here's one that's a potential SQL injection, and we've got a request, and here's the response. And again, we could go back to render and see what actually happened here. And it doesn't look like anything happened, so not really clear why this particular request seems to have gotten flagged as SQL injection, since it doesn't look like anything actually happened. Here's a second request, and we'll take a look at the response over here, and we'll flip down through the HTML, and Again, I don't see much of anything in the HTML that would suggest to me that this was a SQL injection that actually succeeded. So again, it's one of those where you probably want to go back and double check this through the browser itself and see how it actually behaves. May have actually captured something incorrectly, or Burp Suite may have just flagged something because it didn't completely understand what had actually happened. So again, this is a case where you probably want to go back to the raw request, and I'm going to go back to the request over here. Go back to the raw request and actually make some changes. So here's where we would issue a GET request, and you could actually send that to the browser and see how that responded. So that's how you would go about actually investigating results. Some of it is a question of just looking to see what Burp Suite flagged and see whether it makes sense. Often you've got to go validate what Burp Suite is saying, maybe do some additional playing around and see if you can duplicate what Burp Suite thought that it saw. For example, that SQL injection may have seen something that it thought would potentially open the door to a SQL injection, but the response that was actually captured didn't actually indicate that we'd gotten any real success doing a SQL injection attack. So again, you may want to go do a little bit of additional work there.